Hello. Today I want to talk to you about human body systems. All right, let's look at those words. Human, body, and systems. Human body systems. Now, we've talked about human body systems. We talk about it in school. There's three very important words. Human means people. Right? Body, our bodies, our arms, our legs, all the different body parts. And systems. Systems means many different parts working together. Right? So, we've talked about different kinds of systems. An airplane is a system. Right? It needs wings, it needs wheels, it needs a cockpit, it needs doors, all those things. It needs an engine. All those things have to work together to help that airplane fly. Right? If we start taking away parts of the airplane, it's not going to work anymore. Right? That's a system. Many different parts working together. Human body system. So now let's look at some different parts of our body. Today, the human body system that we're going to be looking at is called the cardiorespiratory system. The cardiorespiratory system. Let's look at a couple different things, and we'll try and sort it out and find the ones that we need for today. All right, so we've got a couple of things here. Let's spread them all around. All right, there we go. Here we go. We got a bunch of words on the table. Now, for the cardiorespiratory system, the things that we're going to be looking for, the most important parts of the cardiorespiratory system are going to be in pink. So let's look for those things. And then we're also going to be using a couple of other things too. So let's take a look. Now, let's read these words before we start. We've got muscles, veins, lungs, bones, heart, nerves, brain, and tendons. All right, now I said we're looking for the pink ones first. So muscles, is that pink? No, muscles are not part of our cardiorespiratory system. Let's move it over here. We don't need that one. Veins. Veins is pink, so we must need this one. This must be one of the important ones. What about lungs? Lungs is pink, so we must need that one. Let's put it over there together. Bones. Is that one pink? No, it's not. It's blue. Let's move it over here. That's not part of this system. That's part of a different system. All right, now the heart. The heart. Okay, now that's pink, so we definitely want that one. Let's move it over here. Now there's one more over here that we definitely don't need. We moved both the blue ones, both of the other blue ones over here. We don't need them. Can you see the word that we don't need? It's tendons. We don't need tendons. That's what connects the muscles to the bones. Don't need that one. Now, these last two are purple. Now, I said we needed the pink ones that were very important, but we also actually need these purple ones. We should talk about these purple ones too. Now, the purple ones are interesting because they're sort of part of every system in a way. The brain and the nerves. So, the brain, here's a picture of a brain right here. The brain is, up in our head, in our skull, and the brain is where all of our ideas come from. When you have an idea, when you tell a joke or something, that joke is coming from your head. When you decide that you're going to run and you start controlling your muscles to move, those ideas are all coming from our brain, from inside our brain. So we use this, our brain controls all of our systems together. So it's really important that we talk about that when we talk about all these different systems. Now, nerves, I don't have a picture of nerves, but nerves are like the wires that run through our body. It's how our brain can send messages, from my head, down to my feet or over to my hand, and sometimes back. Right? If I touch something hot, and my body needs to know that I've touched something hot, and maybe it's dangerous. Maybe it's going to hurt my skin, and so I should move my hand. Well, what happens is when I touch something hot, those nerves send a message from my finger. Beep, 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 all the way up to my brain, and it says, oh no, something's hot, move your hand. And then my brain tells the message, move the fingers, and then that message goes beep, 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 down to my hand, and I move my hand really quickly. Now, all of that happens really, really fast. It's not like a slow, beep, 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 beep message. It moves really, really quickly through our body, those messages. But those are our nerves. Our nerves are kind of like the wires that carry our ideas around our body, carry the instructions from our brain to our different body parts, or ideas from other parts to our brain. Okay, so now let's look at some of the other things we've got here. We've got lungs and heart. Let's look at those two first. So here I've got a picture of our lungs, and here I've got a picture of our heart. Our lungs and our heart. Now our lungs are right in the middle of our chest. They're very big, and they're like two sort of very funny shaped balloons. Now they're kind of like balloons because they fill up with air. When you breathe in, air is getting pulled into your mouth, and it's filling up your lungs. It fills up your lungs, and then our body can do stuff with that air. And then when we breathe out, our body is pushing up, and it pushes out all that air from our lungs so that we're ready to breathe in again. Right? So that's our lungs. It's kind of a picture of our lungs, sort of a cartoon picture. The real lungs would look a little bit different than this, but this is pretty close to what our lungs look like. And you can imagine them, they're very big and right in the middle of our chest. Now our heart is also just about in the center of our body, pretty close to the center. Our heart is about the size of a fist. So if you make a fist with your hand, that's about the size of your heart. So if I look at this, this is pretty close to the size of my heart. This picture right here. So if you imagine this just about in the center of my body, that's basically what my heart would look like inside my body. And the heart is a pump, and it moves blood. It pumps blood all around our body. Now, how does it do that? Well, it uses the veins. Now, veins are like a straw. So here, I've got a tube. Here, this is just a piece of plastic tubing. You can see there's a hole here and a hole here. If I were to blow, the air comes out that side. This is a straw. Now, this is kind of like our veins inside our body. Our veins carry blood. The blood gets pushed down one side, and it gets moved all around our body. Now, if you look on your skin, you might be able to see some of your veins. Sometimes they look a little bit blue or sometimes a little bit red. You can kind of see them through the thin parts of your skin, especially on your wrist. Those are our veins. They're very important because they help our heart move our blood around our body. Now, why does it need to move the blood around the body? Well, that's because the blood is carrying important things all around our body. When we exercise, our muscles need oxygen. Oxygen comes from the air that we breathe, right? If you take a deep breath, we're breathing in a lot of different gases, but one of the most important ones for our body is oxygen. Our muscles need that oxygen, right? So the air comes into our bodies, it goes into our lungs, and then the oxygen gets pulled out of the lungs and put into our blood, and then the heart pumps the blood around our body so that our muscles can use it. Then our muscles change that oxygen into a gas that we don't need. It's called carbon dioxide, CO2. We don't need that gas. It's kind of like our trash gas from our body. And then that blood carries that CO2 gas, the gas we don't need, the air that we don't need, back to our lungs. And when we breathe out, we're putting out the air that we don't need. We breathe in the oxygen, we breathe out the CO2. Okay. And our lungs allow that air to mix with our blood, and our heart is the pump that moves that blood around our body. So what is a pump? Well, I have a model of a pump here. Not a model pump, this is a real pump, but this is usually like a water pump. You might find a pump like this in an aquarium, like a fish tank. So what it does is it can pump a liquid, so maybe water or something like that, from one place to another place, right? Let me take off this tube that looks like the veins, and let's look at this. So how does this pump work? Well, inside here, if I take off this little screen and then take off this little piece in here, we can see there's a little propeller. This propeller pushes the water out of this hole. So the water comes in here through this hole, and then the propeller spins around and it pushes it out that hole through this tube. Okay. Now in our body, we don't have a spinning propeller like this inside our heart. Our heart is a muscle, and our muscle is squeezing. It squeezes. And if you imagine it like, if you took a bunch of water in your hands and then you squeeze your hands together, the water is going to squirt out, right? Because you take a big space and then you squeeze it tight, the water is going to squirt out. And that's exactly what's happening in our heart. Our heart has different places inside it, and they open up, and then the blood comes in, and then it squeezes it, and it squirts the blood out into our veins and our arteries that go all around our body. So, all right, let me put this back together. Here we go. And let's plug the tube in. So this is like the veins kind of going into our heart, we can imagine. So we've got a pump, that's like our heart, and we've got this tube, and that's like our veins. Now let me move these pictures out of the way, these words out of the way. And let me bring over some containers. Now instead of blood, we're going to use tea. So this is just some tea. And we've got two containers here. We've got this container that's got some tea in it, and we've got this container that's empty. Right? Now, what if this was our muscles? Right? What if we were trying to get the blood to our muscles? Right? Well, in our body, we've got our heart, and here we've got our pump. So this is like our heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this pump down inside this container of tea. Pretty silly, right? All right. Let me dry my fingers off so I don't make a mess. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the electricity for this pump. Now, in our body, we don't need a plug, right? We don't need a plug to turn on our heart. Luckily, our heart is beating all the time, all day, every day. When you're sleeping, when you're running, all the time, our heart is beating. We don't have to turn on. But in this model, I'm going to press a button and turn on this pump. So when we do that, we're going to see that T is going to start moving up this tube and out here into this other container. All right? And that is very much like the blood moving from one place to another. So this T is going to move from one place to another, but that because of that pump, and in our bodies, the blood is moving because of our pump, which is our heart. All right, let's turn this pump on and see what happens. Here we go. All right, you can see it's already starting to work really quickly. Wow, look at that. It's pumping out lots of tea over here. It's filling this cup right up. You can imagine this, these veins, this is very much like inside our body. We've got lots and lots of veins moving blood from one place to another. And here we can see now I've reached almost the end of my bucket, and we've run out of space for the pump, so I'm going to turn this off. There you see. So you can see we were able to move the tea, in this case, from one container to the other using this pump. And that's what our heart does inside our body. All right. Let me move this stuff out of the way, and then we'll talk a little bit about our lungs. All right. So if our heart is a pump, right, we know what our heart does. We know its job is to pump that blood to carry the oxygen and other things around our body. What do we use our lungs for? Well, like I said, the lungs are what pull the oxygen in and let our oxygen in the air that we breathe mix into our blood, and also to get rid of our CO2. So we use them when we exercise. When you're running, you can feel that you're breathing faster, right? You need more oxygen when you're exercising. And athletes, like people who are going to be in the Olympics, like an Olympic runner, their heart and their lungs are really strong, and they're really good at bringing in lots of oxygen for their muscles. And that's, one of the reasons why they can run so fast, and they can, or why they're so strong. But for us, it's not just about running fast or being strong. Our lungs and our heart can also help us relax by bringing in a lot of oxygen and sort of relaxing and focusing on just our breathing, thinking about our lungs. We can actually help our bodies relax. Now, there's a really nice way to do that. And what I'm going to want you to do, you're going to do it with me. We are going to practice some breathing, and you can feel your lungs filling up with air, and then you're going to think about how your lungs are blowing the air out. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes, and we're going to imagine that when we breathe in, we're going to fill our lungs all the way up. So you want to feel your lungs inside your body filling with air. And when they're all full, then we're going to breathe out through our mouth, and we're going to pretend that we're blowing out birthday candles, but not a sort of a crazy, fast blowing, a very nice and slow type of blowing. So we're going to breathe in through our nose, and we're going to breathe out through our mouth. All right, let's practice that together. Now, this is a really nice activity, but what I want you to do is I want you to sit really, really nicely. Actually, you can, it helps you relax if you close your eyes, but for this time, maybe watch me first, because it'll be a little easier. And then when you do it later, if you want to practice it again by yourself, you can close your eyes to get even more relaxed. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to use my hand also to show you. So, if you're watching, you can see my hand moving to know how I'm breathing in and breathing out, and maybe you can try to breathe along with me. But if you can't, if you have to breathe faster than me or a little bit slower than me, that's okay. Don't worry about doing it at the exact same time as me. So this is sort of a birthday candle breathing. Right, we're going to breathe in through our nose, out, and pretend, sort of imagine that you're blowing out birthday candles. We're going to do this a few times, and we're going to feel how it helps us feel relaxed. Okay, here we go. So we're going to get ready. As my hand goes up, I'll be breathing in through my nose, and when my hand goes down, that means I'm breathing out through my mouth. Here we go. All right, I'm going to take a little pause for a second because I want to tell you to remember, I want to remind you to really think about feeling the air filling your lungs. I want to imagine those two sort of balloons inside your chest filling up with air and then pushing the air out of your body, right? Squeezing those lungs up to push that air out while you're blowing out the candles. Let's try it a few more times. Ready? Ready to take a really nice deep breath, nice and slow, not too fast. Ready? One more. All right. So, whenever I do breathing like this, these types of breathing exercises, I always feel more relaxed afterwards. Now, you don't necessarily feel sleepy, although they can help you sleep if you feel a little bit like some night when it's time to go to bed, but you feel like it's a little hard to fall asleep. You can breathe like that. But for me, it just makes me feel more calm and more like my brain is clear and I can think about different things, right? And that's another thing that we can use our lungs for, right? When we take those deep breaths in, we're bringing lots of oxygen into our body. That oxygen helps our brain feel awake and clear. It helps our muscles work when we're exercising. Our heart and our lungs work together to do a lot of really amazing things. Let's look at those words one more time before we go. Let me lay them out here. All right. We've got our brain. We've got our nerves. The brain is where ideas come from. Nerves carry those ideas around. Our lungs, our heart, our lungs are what fill up with air like big balloons inside of our body and help put the oxygen and the different types of gases into our blood. Our heart pumps that blood around our body to carry that oxygen to our brain, to our muscles, and the veins are like the tubes or straws that carry that blood around our body. All right, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope you keep practicing your breathing. Anytime you feel like you want to relax, or maybe you want to get ready for something, if you have you're going to do something difficult and you want to get ready beforehand, you can take a couple deep breaths, blow out some candles, and you'll be ready to go. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.